Hello, everybody. This is actually my first time doing a roundtable, so if I do something wrong, just bear with me. So I'm Marius from DataHawk. I have two amazing professionals with me. I have Stefano and Tom. I'll get them the chance to introduce themselves in a second. Welcome to our discussion about supply chain and how it works for DataHawk and for Amazon and Walmart. Um, I will let the guys present themselves. We'll go into some topics. We're waiting for your questions if you have some, and we'll just take it from there. Thank you so much. So Stefano, if you would like to start.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be in this conference. Briefly introduce myself. I'm Stefano. I actually started as an Amazon seller in 2016. That's how I started. And since 2017, I started consulting. You know, when you start as a seller, then everybody sees you as the expert. And that's how I started my agency. Fast forward to today, in 2022, I've helped almost 100 brands launch on Amazon in Europe. I have a team, and we pretty much specifically help brands to grow in Europe. So all across the European marketplaces, we help with catalog selection, we help with product launches, PPC campaigns, account management, you name it. I mean, we are the go-to guys for Amazon Europe. And as you know, Amazon Europe there are different marketplaces, so it's an added complexity compared to the States. And yes, that's my introduction.
Sure, thank you so much, Stefano. And of course, we all know that Amazon Europe is growing as numbers from year to year, but as markets as well. Tom, if you would like to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Tom. I'm representing Payoneer here. Yeah, I'm heading up partnerships in the UK. In terms of a bit of background about myself, too, an Amazon seller, slightly less time than Stefano here, but yeah, but been selling online for a couple of years now, and just getting to that expansion stage. So interesting to see, at what stage it takes to really, ramp up sales and really, gain additional traffic. So that's what I do on the side. But yeah, main job is Payoneer. Payoneer, a global payments firm. So we allow businesses, they're receiving from the likes of Amazon to receive currency in locally, as opposed to, being affected by exchange rate, Amazon currency conversion. We also offer sort of working capital and card solutions as well. So everything to do with payments, it is us. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much, Tom. So everybody, like I said, from our side, we're going to cover some topics. Those would be, what are the key considerations for a business to think about before expanding into a new region or onto a new marketplace? What do you need to do as a marketplace seller to ensure your success long term? How to quickly launch on Amazon Europe? It is better to have a 3PL or not? And we talk about supply chains. What are the top tips for optimizing supply chain? So let's get things started. So guys, which one of you would like to discuss about what are the key considerations for a business to think about before expanding into a new region or onto a new marketplace, even in Europe?
Well, I can jump in this question. And first stage is catalog selection. That's very important. You don't want to launch all your catalog. We usually suggest to pick your bestsellers if you're already selling in another marketplace or your own Shopify store. Depends also how deep is your catalog. But Amazon has its own peculiarities, right? Some products that maybe sell very well in a Shopify store are not going to perform as well on Amazon. So catalog selection, first point. Then is of course logistics strategy, supply chain strategy, finding a 3PL to store your products. 3PL is going to help not only with fulfillment if you don't want to use FBA, if you have bulky products, but also is going to help with the reverse logistic. And that's very important to consider. Many brands just start out using FBA warehouses. That's good. So if you want to just test the water, launch your best sellers, let's say in Germany, central country. From there, you distance sell to all the surrounding countries. You just need to register for one VAT if you're not selling already. And that's how you test the markets. Of course, if you're already an established brand, then you have more budget, and that's a different story. So it really depends on the size, on your budget, on your catalog, and on your products.
Okay, perfect. Tom, do you think it's different from the brands that are expanding, let's say, from the UK market or into the UK market comparing to the rest of the markets on Amazon Europe?
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of key considerations before expansion. You know, obviously, Stefano's just listed a few really important aspects. I think, you know, resources is a huge one, and making sure that you lean on the right partners to be able to enable that growth as easy as possible is so important. There are obviously a lot of options out there when it comes to different tech platforms or, you know, businesses that make the whole process much easier. I think, you know, key considerations when you go from, you know, into Europe, for example, might be language, and, you know, it might be the cultural differences. So I would really recommend doing a lot of research into, you know, your customer base, the competition. Just because you're successful in the UK market doesn't always mean you're going to be, you know, exceptionally selling well in Europe as well. So I think it really comes down to doing that initial research, making sure that you firstly start, because a lot of businesses, you know, do ponder over things and actually never do it. And as you can see on here, I was at a Walmart event today. So we had 500 sellers in a room, all UK Amazon businesses. And there was a lot of speeches from sort of 8-9 figure sellers, which was really interesting. And one of the key messages was, you've got to start somewhere, and you've got to, you know, diversify, take risks, but of course back it up with hard facts and and of course do your research. So I'd say key considerations wise is, you know, to do your planning, but also make sure you do take the step, capture the opportunity, because if you don't, your competition will, and you'll obviously lose out on that market share.
Sure, and it makes sense. And you know, because we talked about this, the one question, of course, that comes after this: what do you think that sellers should do as a marketplace seller, right? And especially, again, talking about Amazon and Walmart, what do you think that they should do to ensure success on a long term? So not like just be that one hit wonder, right? Or you just were successful for half a year and then nobody hears of you, or you just drop in your numbers, people do not see your products anymore, and so on. So what do you think would be the key to that?
Is the question for me or?
For
okay, well, I can answer that. Well, first of all, as Tom said, catalogs, I mean, you have to start, but also market research and making sure that you're taking the right steps. Ponderated steps, I will say, is very important. So you have to make sure to go on the right path. Otherwise, you have to go back and take another path, right? So that's the first thing. But to ensure long-term success, I would say you have to go with an investment mindset. Because right now, Amazon is much more competitive than 5 years ago, where you could just slap a label into a product, a generic product, and sell. Right now, you have to create better content, better pictures, better listings. You have to differentiate your product. So I would say first point, really understand your market, your competitors. Second point, content. You have to create a store. You have to create A+ content, right? The content that is below the description. That's an investment, of course, because you're either paying somebody or hiring somebody to do it for you. And you see the results only when sales pick up, right? But that's a very important point to consider and to push in your budget. Otherwise, if all your competitors are using better strategy than you, better content strategies, then you're just not going to sell. And then you're going to think that you just wasted some money, right? So there's more capital to invest. There's more research to be made at the beginning. There's more PPC costs because CPC costs are rising in Europe as well. In the States are much higher, but in Europe are rising as well. PPC is getting more and more complex. So maybe you have to hire a specialist to help you with that. Otherwise, you have to learn yourself, and that's a very steep curve. It will take years, potentially, depending on your category. and then the Amazon platform changes very quickly, right? So it's just more competitive, right? So if you want to have long-term success, invest and consider hiring some specialists, or yeah, that's what I would suggest.
Okay, Tom, do you think it's actually right now harder for, let's say, new joiners on Amazon that don't have an established brand? Maybe they're in the beginning, right? They're just trying to sell some products on Amazon without having that much money. Do you think that it's harder for them right now to actually access the market and try to get, the benefits out of Amazon and Walmart?
Yeah, I think it is 100% become harder over the years. I think, as Stefano just said, a couple of years, 3-4 years ago, it was much less saturated. E-commerce was obviously thriving and still is today. And I think, one of the good things, if you can say, that came out of out of the whole COVID situation was that consumer habits really have shifted, and you've got so many, especially the older generation, that are now so much more enabled to use e-commerce sites, marketplaces to buy certain things. So I think we talk about, is it harder? I would say yes, it is more saturated, and I think it takes a lot more to be able to scale up to what you could previously do fairly quickly in the past. And I think it really comes back down to really doing your research and making sure that you are optimizing all of the areas that you can, that you are squeezing your margins as much as possible, and really doing your research on the markets, not just on a territorial basis, but also on a marketplace level. If you're selling furniture and you're selling it on Amazon as an example, why not look at Wayfair? That there is a whole new markets available to you as well, that can give you millions of more eyes on your products, and of course you've got those some great fulfillment methods, some 3PLs that are out there, that they cover, well, globally really, but some great ones in Europe especially. So I think be mindful of that, be mindful of your competition, but also I'd say that it's not always a race to cover as much area as possible, but it can also be a bit of a negative if your competitors do get there first. So hopefully that answers the question.
Sure. Yeah, and to be honest, taking into consideration what I've just heard, I do remember the words of my CEO, and he always says, Amazon has developed a lot, right, in the last few years. So if not very long ago, just maybe less than 10 years ago, it would be like you just launch a product and people will come and buy it, right? And then it was kind of a wild west at some point. Right now, you guys are exactly right. You have to do your homework before launching. You have to be data-driven, algorithm-driven. You have to have experts, and it is more of a hustle and more work right now to launch a new product or just to launch yourself as a company on Amazon than it was some time ago. So yeah, that's very true. So how to quickly launch on Amazon Europe? And again, open question for both of you. How do you think it's this can be done properly to quickly launch on Amazon Europe and just start from there?
Well, I think managing your supply chain and having a great supply chain strategy is the key. Because you don't want to, first point, you don't want to run out of stock. That's going to lower your conversion rate. You're going to lose your ranking. You paid for that because you invest on PPC campaigns, and then suddenly you run out of stock and you lose all that. So that's the first point. Have that under control. And that's the topic of discussion of this chat, right? Logistic and supply chain.
Yes.
And also consider maybe relocating if you're in China and Shenzhen port is closed and the ships cannot leave from there. Consider. I know it's complicated, right? I'm saying that it's easy, right? But long term, if you want to have long term success, consider having a backup supplier somewhere else, maybe in Turkey, in India, I don't know, somewhere else. If you're sourcing from China, since I know that many Amazon sellers source from there. And then, of course, to launch quickly, I would say using the OSS, that is one-stop shop in Europe. You just register for one VAT number in one country. Usually we suggest Germany, as I said before, because it's the biggest country in the middle of Europe. And from there, you can distance sell all over. The distance sell means that you ship from, let's say, the Amazon warehouses in Germany to UK, Italy, Spain, and France. So that's the fastest way to start. Otherwise, you will have to register for each VAT where you store your products, and that's going to be a lot of overhead costs and issues with reverse logistics, especially because if somebody returns the product from France, you don't want to have Amazon checking if the product is sellable or not, because most of the time they will just put it as sellable while it's not, and then you will have an issue. So you have to manage that. So to answer your question, Marius, one-stop shop, store in one country, use the EFN, Amazon European Fulfillment Network. Now, if you can even distance sell to the UK, since 2 months, I think, because of Brexit, the Amazon eliminated that option for a few years. So it's a no-brainer. You pick your best sellers, you store there, and you start selling. You just have to translate to create the listings, and as I said before, create some good content.
Sure. So Tom, coming to your way, I'm just because Stefano said that have enough have enough products, right? Have enough stock in order to make sure that you launch and you go with the flow, right? Once you launch. So did you ever see a situation where somebody ran out of stock, like let's say shortly after launching or something like that, and then lost their position, which maybe was favorable at some point on Amazon? Did that ever happen to you? I mean,
it's actually happened to me personally as well as people that I've actually been dealing with, and yeah, obviously because of the supply chain issues in the past with the delays that most sellers saw, that there was a small period of which our e-commerce business didn't have any stock coming in, and we'd worked really hard on getting our ranking, and we're starting to rank more organically, and our PPC spend came down, and then because of that delay, we lost a lot of ranking there, and we had to then really ramp back up on ad spend and really dig deep there. So yeah, I mean, in answer to your question, yes, I have seen it. I've seen it firsthand. I think it's an extremely important aspect of any expansion is the resource, not only of your time and efforts, but also your cash flow, your inventory. A lot of businesses tend to use Payoneer for our working capital solutions. So if you're receiving 100K a month from Amazon, say, Payoneer would offer like an advance on that. So let's say 150K as an addition. So there are ways around it. So you can lean on various providers out there, and that there's a number of different companies similar that offer different setups, schemes, and so on. So I think that cash flow piece is extremely important, having the amount of inventory, and in terms of that quick expansion, really mirroring what you've said already is, OSS is an easy one. The European Fulfillment Network is a great way of starting and selling into additional countries and making your way up to sort of the Pan-EU program. And then, I think in terms of Germany, all I would say is if you're going to pick Germany to register, then that usually takes the longest. So though it's the biggest country and it's absolutely, where the majority of sales do occur, I think it's like 66 or 70% of sales in Europe occur in Germany and France. So they are sort of definitely going to be your main focuses in most cases, but the VAT registration does take quite a long time. So I'd also be mindful of that as well, depending on your timeframes, and make sure you factor in, as long as 3 months, 3 or 4 months in some cases for the VAT to come through. But that's what I would say.
One thing I want to relate this to DataHawk, for example, and this is, for example, what we always say, to our prospects, to our new customers. We say we do have alerts that we do alert you if you're about to go to stock, and if you're tracking other companies as well and their products and they're about to go to stock, we alert you on that as well. maybe that can be an opportunity for you, to push more, to get more market share. Who knows? Tom, do you think it's better, and Stefano as well, do you think it's better to have a 3PL or not? How would you consider it?
Yeah, I mean, from my side of things, I would definitely say it's worth it. I think everyone that was selling probably about a year or so ago, maybe sooner, when IPI scores became an issue and that Amazon had their inventory limits, I think a lot of businesses got affected. So I think with that in mind, if there are ever stock limits imposed again, then it's always great to have an additional fulfillment center to be able to fulfill those orders under SFP or FBA, whatever you want to call it. I personally have moved all my stock out recently from FBA, and I've now gone on to FBM, so fulfilled by merchant, using a third-party logistics center called Habu. They're able to fulfill Prime orders actually cheaper than Amazon, and they take returns. So I would say absolutely, it's worth using a 3PL. A lot of businesses will still use FBA and they will drip feed their stock in, so they've got surplus stock available. And from a risk management perspective, I think it's definitely worthwhile. And of course, there's also the advantage of having additional marketplaces. Like my Shopify store is now fueled through the 3PL. I'm probably going to expand into further afield, and additional marketplaces will start coming in. So I think generally speaking, I would definitely say it's worth doing as you start to scale.
Okay, Stefano, from your side.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that you have to have a long-term strategy. You have to understand exactly where you want to be in 2 years. You have to calculate, okay, am I just going to sell on Amazon? Am I going to have another sell in other marketplaces? But if it's just Amazon, I would say, yeah, start with FBA, but then consider if that is like something that is cutting your profit margins, then consider doing FBM. Prime FBM, of course, is important because you get the badge, and that's so key for the ranking. So don't do FBM if you don't have the Prime badge. So if it's not Prime FBM. And yeah, I mean, as I said, it just takes more time to devise a strategy, and you have maybe to revise the strategy. There are more uncertainties nowadays, so have like the supply chain under control, and also make sure that you have your profit margin. Sometimes sellers, they just overspend on PPC and a lot of returns. I mean, maybe if you have 15% returns, maybe your profit margins are not there. So know your numbers. Understand also if maybe you could improve your PPC, or you could maybe drive some traffic from outside of Amazon. If you're not selling on your Shopify store, then why not drive traffic from outside with influencers or use other strategies? But if you have your Shopify store, then it doesn't really make sense to do that, or to bid on your branded keyword on Amazon.
Okay.
So
okay, perfect, and yeah, it makes sense. So we said we'd be discussing about like the top tips for optimizing a seller supply chain, right? So if somebody would walk into your company tomorrow and they would say, hey, Tom, hey, Stefano, tell me, like, what would be your best advice, like your top tips for me to do that? How would you say it?
To optimize supply chain, well, as I said, differentiate and make sure you have a backup plan in different countries, ideally. So if it's Europe, okay, if it's the States, usually companies go to Mexico, Colombia, South America in general. If it's Europe, Turkey is an up-and-coming country with a lot of good suppliers.
Do you see Turkey as well as one of the markets that are going to be relevant?
Well, I'm talking about, okay, the supply chain. I mean, I'm talking about more supply chain disruption, right? So supply chain disruption take place in China because of logistic issues, right? And raising cost and all that. So supply chain is connected with, logistic is connected with sourcing, right? So those go hand in hand. So I would say, yeah, make a good plan. And
do you think it's easier for guys that are, let's say, having, like local supply chain, right, in the same country, in the same area, comparing to the guys that, for example, right now are getting their stuff from China?
Well, I mean, as you know, like cost of shipping from China has increased, what, 5 times?
I know, trust me.
You know,
I
so
know
you have to know your
personally,
numbers.
so
Look, if it still makes sense for you to buy from Asia, then great. You know, just know your numbers and see if it makes sense for you. And also rising material costs, raw material costs, and rising workforce costs. Many companies that were sourcing in China now are going to Vietnam or other East Asian countries. So it just, in my opinion, it's just a matter of knowing your numbers, knowing what can you improve. And also, of course, product quality is important, right? Because at the end of the day, since Amazon is so competitive, you have to make sure that you're selling the best or one of the best products, and you're differentiating that, and you're protecting, right, your products, like the barrier of entry doesn't have to be too low, right?
okay.
That's why many times higher price point products. Yeah, that's a good suggestion right there. Like if you don't have higher price point products with great profit margins, try to launch some of those. Let's say you have your average products around 30-40 euros. Okay, maybe try to have products that is 80-90, you know, just to be on the safe side.
Perfect. Tom, from your side, same question.
Yeah, so well, generally optimization and sort of long-term success. So I guess yeah, all points raised already have been, you know, extremely relevant and spot on, I would say, from my side. I think yeah, I think generally speaking, it's really important to build the business based on where you want to take it. And I know it sounds like really cliche to say, but I think you've got like a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 strategy about where you want to take it. I think you can really structure the way that you set up the business in a much better way. And I think also that, you know, applies for things like exits. You know, you're seeing a lot of aggregators buying Amazon FBA businesses. You know, be aware when you start the business of, you know, what is it that they're actually looking for? How should things be structured? What technology can I rely on? You know, I've been with Limworks all today, like an order and inventory management software. You know, there's so many different platforms and tech, you know, providers, DataHawk and so many others that you can lean on, which will allow sort of long-term success. And it just makes it much easier for you. So yeah, I think can continue to optimize, put the efforts in, and I think that, you know, you'll reap the rewards.
Yeah, talking about long-term success, this is actually what we tell to our customers as well and prospects. We always tell them, you know, like, keep in mind that whatever you start today, you know, usually it can happen like overnight, right, and have a lot of success, but usually you have to take it 1 month or 2 months or 6 months or 1 year, right, to see things growing, to see things stabilizing. And this is what we always tell our customers, and this is what we always offer them. Tom, Stefano, thank you so much for the time today. We're almost out of time, so I do appreciate your insight. It was great. I hope that everybody that saw us took some, you know, notes to to put in their business. I do hope that they will be more interested into DataHawk and into talking to both of you about what you guys offer as well. For all of us, for all of you, sorry, out there, keep in mind that we do have a keynote speaker, Arvin, right after this, and we have another roundtable with Pierre and Michael just 20 minutes from now on, and I would love to see you all there and take it from there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye-bye.